Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this weekly Ag Weather Update brought to you by the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina. Every time we have a significant weather event, especially in the tropics, the geostationary satellites operated by the United States, NASA, NOAA, they will train their satellites on those events and they'll increase the time resolution. So what we end up getting are what we call these mesoscale floaters. So we get to zoom in here on a particular event like Hurricane Ian. You can see here's the Yucatan, there's Cuba, this is Jamaica, and we get 1 minute satellite imagery out of this. Now this is just impressive we can do this. So let me take you back to sunrise this morning and watch Ian intensify throughout the day. Now when I say intensify, what I'm looking for are these. These are what we call hot towers. These are areas right around the center of the circulation where we have very deep convection. So those are great big tall thunderstorms. They're sending their anvils, clear through the depth of the troposphere, bouncing off the stratosphere. And what we're going to be watching for all day today is as Ian moves north and going to clip this part of Cuba, we're going to watch for an eye to open because the system has been intensifying very quickly. National Hurricane Center's 8 a.m. update this morning here on Monday suggests that this could be up to a Category 3 strength hurricane by the time it hits Cuba and maintain that strength, possibly even get stronger as it moves just to the north of Florida. The track is very tricky at this point. We have to see what happens once it gets over Cuba. We need to watch the steering currents beyond that point to see if we do end up getting a landfall just north of Tampa or if this turns and then makes its way into Georgia. Now, North and South Carolina and Virginia, what we're going to be watching out most carefully for this is going to be later this week, just the total amount of rainfall we're going to get out of this. I'm not expecting strong winds, like damaging level winds. I'm just expecting a lot of rainfall. But to our south, hitting parts of the Cotton Belt, getting into all of the different agricultural spaces in Florida, this is going to be a pretty powerful system to be contending with. Okay, just thinking historically about this, and I included this in my morning reports if you get those. Last week, it looked more like the track was going to come up and clip southern Florida. So it looked a lot like Hurricane Charlie from 2004. But to come out of the Gulf and then come into Florida from this particular angle is actually pretty rare. And the last time this happened was Gladys, Hurricane Gladys from 1968. And why we get so concerned about Florida is, especially the west coast of Florida, is that Tampa and Tampa Bay has about 3 million people in the metro area and very low elevation. So here's kind of the big idea behind this. I have a much deeper trough that's sitting here over the Great Lakes, and that's going to bring in some much colder air. So for corn and soybean farmers, we're actually going to be talking about a frost. Parts of northern Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa, getting up to the Red River Valley of the North. I'll bring that up in a few moments. But you can actually see what we call in atmospheric sciences a deformation zone out ahead of Ian. And the deformation happens right here. So what's going to end up happening here is there's going to be some frontogenesis in this area. That's the creation of a front, the squeezing together of a temperature gradient. And that's what might force Ian to make a harder turn. That would influence, of course, when Ian makes this turn to the north, and that's when we start to discuss our rainfall possibility out of this. But until that gets there, there's cooler air coming in with this pattern while heat builds to the western part of the United States. So let's just get right to it. This is kind of zoomed in over the southeast, and we're going to watch here the high-resolution European model predict when Ian is going to get toward Florida, which could be as early as Thursday morning, very early Thursday morning or late Wednesday night, and then run right along the coast is the possibility. So our first chance at kind of getting some rain out of this, as you note here, might not be until we get into Friday morning to midday. That would be when the time frame would be that we see some precipitation moving into the southern part of North Carolina. Then because Ian gets pulled north over parts of the Tennessee Valley, we're going to see a broad shield of rainfall out ahead of it, which means the end of this week into the weekend, a lot of scattered rainfall. And it's going to last through Sunday, getting out there toward Monday, and not even really fully clearing maybe until next Monday night. Okay, so we're going to watch this at the end of this week through the weekend into early Monday. And on the ECMWF forecast for total precipitation, we're going to use this as our main guidance at the beginning of this video. We see that through, this week, early this week, we just have the scattered showers early today. And as we play this forward, there's the rain moving in. We've kind of overlaid some numbers here just to kind of get an idea. So the chances of picking up between an inch to maybe some places as the flow pushes against the Appalachian Mountains, 3 to 4 inches, it's relatively high. Now, when we add this to what we've already seen, let's kind of zoom this map out. This is our total rainfall from the last 72 hours. Of course, we had some scattered showers and storms that moved through over the weekend. Also, they're kind of pulling around this deeper upper level trough here. But what's important to see is that we're going to be bringing in some heavy rain to some areas that have been quite dry. So what you're looking at here is the latest 16-inch or 40-centimeter soil moisture values. And we've been drier overall for quite some time here across parts of Virginia, North Carolina, down to South Carolina. It's also been dry throughout the Corn Belt. We've done a lot of harvest progress in this area because of some of the drier conditions, while the Southwest over to California has been very wet, especially last week in California with the big upper level low. This morning, there we go, I made a graphic here that shows the month to date, so this is September 1 through the morning of the 25th, looking at precipitation ranks by climate district. And we do see here that kind of this northeastern quadrant of North Carolina is having a top 10 driest Septembers. Over toward the Appalachian Mountains, we're on the wetter side of normal. So the rainfall that's going to be coming through here is going to really change the stats by the end of the month. Now, because of this, we've actually shown up on the latest drought monitor as now having kind of that second stage of drought in parts of North Carolina. And we've kind of zoom in here. We can just get a good idea on where that drought really exists, with some places here showing up with D1. They call that moderate drought, in this whole section here of North Carolina. So the rainfall is going to be coming in on some drier ground. Now, a lot of folks still need to get quite a bit done in terms of field work, get fall harvest completed, things of this nature. But we just need to keep a close eye on this in the next little while here. So in the near term, what do we have? Well, this is early this morning, so we've seen the showers clear out. And as we just played this forward, there is the chance late this afternoon of some scattered showers. It's all coming around this bigger upper level trough. But that clears out. And going out into Tuesday into Wednesday, we're just going to be waiting on kind of the broad shield rainfall to make its way north. This is the high-res NAM model. Again, just a quick summary of what to expect over the next 7 days. This is from the WPC forecast this morning, the Weather Prediction Center. And we do see that, stretching across North Carolina, the possibility of picking up more than 1.5 inches. Some places even maybe getting up here in the 2 to 3 inch range is a possibility. On the grand scheme of things, though, we kind of zoomed in on the southeast early. Let's go watch this again. So this is through Tuesday into Wednesday. It'll not be until really we get here. That's Thursday night into Friday. See it pulling through there? And then the end of this week and weekend is when we're going to be dealing with this tropical system. So again, this isn't going to be a wind issue. We could have wind gusts 30 plus miles an hour, but this is going to be just some heavier rains locally at times. And what's really slowing it down is the higher pressure to the north. There's a high pressure cell that kind of stretches in through here. So as Ian makes its way, it's going to push against that, and that's going to it's going to squeeze the atmosphere a bit, cause air to rise. That's what's going to increase our total precipitation. So maybe a good way to look at it is week 1 versus week 2 for the whole country. Week 1 precipitation anomalies on the left, week 2 on the right. Because we don't see anything following Ian out of the tropics, and the upper level flow pattern is going to feature a bigger ridge over the west, week 2 looks near normal to drier than normal. What we're going to be seeing, though, is where Ian goes and the potential to add quite a bit of excessive rain, especially up against the Appalachian Mountains on the east-facing slopes. Another way to look at it is, what's the probability of getting 2 inches of rainfall? You'll notice here that the models are sitting somewhere across North Carolina in that 60 to 80% range. So that's what we're looking at. Let's talk temperatures now. This was the frost that was had over the last week. So everywhere there's gray, there was a frost event over the last week. And I'm just trying to get an idea on the extent of possible frost issues across, the Corn Belt for those corn and soybean farmers here. So we're looking at something that might move the markets. It could be frost this time of year. The forecast over the next 7 days, though, suggests that on Wednesday morning, we get some cold air into parts of, Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, maybe over into UP Michigan, or the lower Michigan, and some patchy frost in the Appalachian Mountains, which is common this time of year. High temperatures first, though. Watch the temperature change happen for us. Monday's highs, we're near normal, maybe a couple degrees above normal. But Tuesday into Wednesday, that's when the coldest air kind of comes in. So look at these high temperatures here, struggling to get out of the 60s in the center part of North Carolina. This is also where the cloud cover from Ian starts to come in. So the end of this week is cool. We're going to see temperatures at times maybe being up to 10 plus degrees colder than normal as we go into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as that cloud cover tries to clear out. But on Tuesday morning, we're going to have lows around 50 near Raleigh. But then on Wednesday, notice this, we've got some much colder air coming into this part of the Corn Belt. It's going to be in the 40s here. And as we go from Wednesday into Thursday, back up closer to average on Thursday. So it really looks like Wednesday is going to be our coldest day. But we do have, by the time we get into the weekend, more mild air because the cloud cover tends to keep things warmer overnight. So we're colder in the middle of this week, but more mild toward the end of the week with those overnight lows, not with the daytime highs, with the overnight lows. Okay, what is our longer term temperature outlook kind of really favor? Well, more ridging across the west. So we've got a cool finish to this month. You see it there? But as we start October, we do see better chances for near normal, maybe even mild conditions coming back into place. Okay, from here, I'm going to talk South America and give you a long-range forecast. So next, this is our map showing where we expect precipitation anomalies to really impact ag in South America. Important weekend trends are Mato Grosso backed off a bit on rainfall, especially eastern Mato Grosso. This is near normal start for the monsoon in central and western Mato Grosso, meaning they're going to be planting. Southern Brazil, there's a stalled out front, so very heavy rain, but down here into Rio Grande do Sul, Paraguay, southern Uruguay, and then along the Paraná River in Argentina, where it has been cold and there's been some drought concern this spring, we're continuing to see drier, cooler conditions. So we still expect an on-time plant in much of Brazil. The areas that I think are going to have trouble are going to be south, Argentina, that specifically. The new long-range update for South America continues to show that through October all the way to the 5th of November, a very rapid start to the monsoon season and wetter than normal. So this could indicate a good start to the soybean crop in South America. If there are troubles, it's going to be down here. Brazil, Uruguay, Rio Grande do Sul models continue to kind of point toward that. Now, what's controlling this pattern overall is La Nina, and our La Nina continues to just, I'll be honest, it's very impressive. The trade winds, take a look at this. There's those blue-greens again, which means these winds are just screaming here. Westerly wind bursts coming out from India. That's exactly what we've been talking about, right? I mean, this La Nina just continues to push forward into fall. And I completely agree with the CFSV2 model. It's going to deepen through the month of October and possibly start to make the turn after we get into the beginning of the new year. And that's going to change those long-range forecasts. So what we see from now through November the 5th, from October 5th to November the 5th, is that tends to favor drier conditions from Texas through New England. Outside of any tropical system, we tend to be drier. So that's a typical La Nina forecast and also tends to be closer to normal in temperatures. So the question will be what does this seasonal transition really look like for us? And just remember, it is fall. We will get systems rolling through the country. It just says we may see more drier days than wetter days compared to normal. That's the only way to interpret this at this point. I want to finish with the latest updates from the Climate Prediction Center. You can find this at cpc.ncep.noaa.gov. You can see the URL right up here at the top. But let's come back to this graphic. That graphic, the seasonal outlook on drought. Just something important to see here is that with the La Nina this fall and then possibly in early winter, there's concern that much of the plains and southern plains could continue to see drought development and the drought maintenance in California. But the 1 month outlook, which I showed you this back in the middle of the month, just to reiterate, October, more mild days, but we could see near normal precipitation going forward. And again, this is the wild cards always going to be hurricanes. It's this 3 month outlook I want to have another quick examination of because I want to take it a little bit deeper into the season. So let's go out there to November, December, January. And you notice here that wet northwest, near normal through parts of the mid-Atlantic, but drier across the southern tier of the United States. The reason for this forecast is because during the beginning of this time period, remember, we're still in La Nina. What the concern is that once we get out here past that time frame, that we could be seeing, let's go out here to January, February, March. That's when the shift might really start to take place. And even out there by March, April, May, we're now looking at an entirely different regime. So I'm going to have to focus on this winter forecast very carefully going forward just to see things start to shift around here. Okay, so I'll keep you up to speed on all of this. Keep a very close eye this week on Hurricane Ian. Now, I'll talk to you again next Monday, but in the meantime, just go to nhc.noaa.gov. That's the site I want you looking at. This is it. So please be using these forecast graphics as a way to understand and know where this is going. All right. Appreciate your attention, and I will talk to you again next week. Thanks.